Welcome to DFS Insights, where the game behind the game comes alive. I am David Geislinger, and the teams up on the block are the Boston Celtics at the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. Coming down into, getting into game 4 here. Could it be a sweep? I don't know. It's not looking too good for the Dallas Mavericks. But before we go ahead and get into, game 4, let's go ahead and bring it back and do a quick recap here of game 3. So game 3, Boston ended up winning that. So, it gets kind of serious once the home team loses the first game, and here was Boston 106 to Dallas 99. That was in Dallas. So top 3 fantasy producers: Boston, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, and White. And the top 3 for Dallas were Doncic, Irving, and Lively. All 3 of them actually had it looks like great fourth quarters there. Then getting into it, the previous optimal lineup here for Game 3, Jaylen Brown snuck back in at the MVP, Tatum, Irving, Lively, and Horford. And yeah, so looking at it ownership-wise, up on the screen here is the average ownerships from games 1 through 3 and the new salary, Game 4 salary there. So Tatum basically looks like all the Boston Celtics salaries went up, and a few players from Dallas did too. But they're making it hard to roster, full on Boston onslaught. But now finally getting here to game 4, Dallas is still favored. Vegas has them at favored by 1 point. At home, that's rough. 211.5 over under. The Dallas's offensive rating 102.1, defensive rating 113.6, and 93.33 pace. Yeah, and then obviously inverse for Celtics. So Luka's listed as game time decision, chest injury or chest whatever. He's playing. No doubt in my mind he's playing. Porzingis is also, I believe, listed as game time decision, but there's no way he's playing. I don't see it. He didn't play in Game 3. Boston won. There should be zero reason why he plays in Game 4. Maybe plays in Game 5 if Dallas wins or something, and if he's feeling right. But there's zero reason he should play in this game. So obviously, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell as drop any news that drops. I'll put it up in the comment section, so you'll be the first ones to know. So now that we got over just breaking it down, I'm going to give you my 3 key leverage plays here for the slate. So looking at it, my first one, no surprise, I went with Luka. I mean, the leverage, I'm going to be basically at the field, if not over the field, at him on MVP, even though he's sitting at about probably would be about 70% ownership at the MVP. I just think this is do or die. He's already, looking at him, he's at 39.4 minutes. His usage is 36.6, which is insane. He's averaging 51.5, and then he's projected 55.1. So I think he's gonna kind of do what he did in OKC. He's gonna calm down, stop yelling at the refs, and obviously unless this game just gets completely out of hand. And I think he's gonna have one of those killer 60, 70 fantasy point games and just have a game. He needs to. If they're gonna win, he needs to. There hasn't been really any other player on his team that has stepped up. Kyrie did last game, but they still need that third person. So I think Luka's just going to score so many points regardless of his salary. I'm going to have him, very heavy in MVP because I think he just scores so many points. Fantasy points is hard regardless of his ownership. and then I'll have him, if he's not in MVP, I'll definitely have him in the star, where he'll be, leveraged there. I mean, just looking at it, he's averaging in this series taking 25 shots. So I have a feeling he's probably going to be close to the 30 mark in this game. They need him to start making shots. Well, actually, they need him to play defense, but it is what it is. But yeah, I have him, just going off in this game. So not really a huge leverage play, but that's just my opinion on and what I'm planning on doing with him. Because I just don't see any way that he's not at MVP in Game 4, especially if Dallas is going to win. So, yeah, moving on there to my second pick here. I'm leaning towards going on the opposite side of the ball here. Drew Holiday. I do like him at both the star and the pro position. I mean, he's getting the minutes, 39.1. His usage is slightly low, 13.3. But he's hit. I mean, his average is crazy, 35.4. He's projected 32.4. He's actually the highest points per salary player on this slate right now at 3.22 when you take the average, his average fantasy points through this series. And the next closest is Jaylen Brown at 3.09. So being at 11K salary and, his average fantasy points at, 35.4, yeah, he's just a great play. And, he's even, viable at both the star and the pro, where he's coming in about 10.5% at the star and 16% at the pro. So both positions, you're going to have quite a bit of leverage play there, which you're probably going to need if you're putting Luka up there being 70. I'd say 65 to 70% owned on this slate. So Drew Holiday, I'll be pretty heavy on, being that he's probably one of the better, cheaper players on the Celtics. So yeah, getting in here, before I give you my last pick, again, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, throw a comment out, for the YouTube algorithm, how that, they do it there. So we like to, continue growing this channel. This might be the last time we cover NBA until the next season, and NFL, that season's coming up not soon enough. But, yeah, so getting into my third pick here, speaking of, players on Boston, it's not as cheap, but Mr. Jaylen Brown. It's crazy. He did go up. He was at 14K. Now he's at 15K. Don't like that so much, but especially with Luka at 17.5. But, I mean, just looking, averaging 40.4 minutes. His usage is 26.4, which is basically the highest on the Boston. He's averaging 46.4 fantasy points. He's projected above 40, 41.2. And just looking at, him, I have him, you can see up there, MVP Star Pro. What is this guy talking about? Well, how, based on his performance-wise, how he's like one of the lowest owned Boston players, coming in at only about 7.5% at the MVP, 19% at star, and 7% at pro. With those numbers averaging 46, he's basically been the best player on Boston. Like, I have a feeling that if Boston is to win Game 4, and he doesn't win MVP, then they're just giving probably Tatum, the trophy just because of his name. But Jaylen Brown by far has been the best player, offensive wise anyways. Obviously defensive wise, he's been outstanding too, but yeah, he's been a monster, not only in this game, but not only in this series, but in the previous series where he actually won. I believe he got the MVP in that series there for the Eastern Conference Finals. So, yeah, I'll have Jaylen Brown in all positions. Like I just mentioned, he just won it last week, Game 3. Or excuse me, not last week, last game, Game 3. He was at MVP. Before that, he was at the Star. So, if you can, with the 15K salary, work him around Luka. But if you go Luka, Jaylen Brown, your lineup's probably leaning pretty chalky, just because there's only so many paths you can go after that to be a viable lineup. So with that, please use the ownership slide of the information in the beginning of the thing. Take my 3 leverage plays here, create some viable lineups. Please follow us, like, subscribe, and David. Hopefully, if there is another game, he'll be available to give you another 3 key plays. But with that, we are going to be covering the UFC fights coming up here this weekend. And going forward, be covering UFC and the DraftKings main slate over there. So please follow us if you don't have anything else over here on FanDuel's. We'd like to keep growing this audience and branching out. So again, with that, hope to see you up on that leaderboard.